So if we know that, so the last one we were talking about need for record keeping, right? So what role do body worn cameras do in providing this role, right? So simply and most easily then, that this is a video recording and that is intended, and this is probably what makes it unique, right? Is intended to provide an objective view or semi-objective into a police encounter. So the goal then is that if we look at this police encounter, right, we can see what happened, within an incident, right? There are some things that we could probably figure out, right? So if we're able to see it, then this is one, there are evidence claims, right? So if an officer alleges that an event occurred one way or a citizen alleged an event occurred in one way, they can turn to video evidence to either back up either kind of claim to get people on camera, see exactly what they said, and then justify or excuse certain types of behavior, and that can be used to remove possible offending from someone, right? So it can be used to absolve someone of a crime. That can also dampen as well. This also that zoomed more than I thought. No, stop. The other part to consider too is that if we have this evidence, right, we can also be used to check complaints. So if someone says like an officer acted a certain way or something like that, it can be seen that something was done, right? We can see what happened, from in searches and seizures. We can also have exposure to use of force information. So what predicated or what was force predicated on? Was there hostile actions before? Were there was it super friendly and then just escalate? Was the officer provoking or was not, right? That is a potential benefit from this kind of thing, right? So there are crime control concerns, right, and benefits. There are also prosecutor benefits possibly related to this, right? There are issues for maybe holding accountable to having a video record so that people can see, observe, and store, right? There are all these like benefits from it, right? But the other part that can kind of be kind of like maybe helpful, right, is that, there's something that is called a civilianization effect. Or civilization. It's either civilian, I think it's civilization effect. I think that is the correct one, excuse me. Civilization effect. And so what is intended to happen, right? So let's say that I am the boys in blue, right? I have my eyes with someone and I'm very dour, right? I'm not in a happy mood right there. And let's say, I am dealing with someone who is also in a dour mood, right? Between what's happening here, right? If I'm the officer, right, I have this camera right here. I don't think the cameras are that big, or they're attached to their heads, right? But when however they dictate or announce, right, what ends up happening, right, is this officer is like, "Hey, I see you, right, and I know what you're gonna do, and this is gonna be recorded." And this person, the offender, he's got a little frown because he doesn't want to be with the police, right? He's scared. But here it's all the officers. This person's also like, "Hey, my eyes see you," right? And so what the goal then, right, is that if you remind people they're on camera, and what you're basically saying then is that they are being watched. The goal then is to limit maybe hostilities between people. So maybe, someone takes a deep breath and feels like, okay, well, whatever's going to happen, it's kind of like under control. I know you're being watched, you know you're being watched. I feel safer about that, right? It's also to also have a video form of accountability. So I'm like, okay, just so you know, you can get access to this video anytime later. This can be reviewed by people who can be used in the court of law, so on and so forth, right? Or someone, is potentially going to be, shifting around, or maybe they're trying to like throw away, I don't know, let's say they had drugs on them, they were trying to throw it away, or the officer, maybe intended to do something, but it's going to be on camera, right? We have this evidence record, and can also be seen to look for possibly hidden behaviors that may have normally been obscured by a body or by an officer looking the other way, talking to someone else, right? Because as long as the camera is still rolling, it's something that can be happen, right? So in the early on, right, usually what they try to do, right, is that this is something that's going to be attached to like a lapel, or it could be on the shoulder of someone, right? Some of them, the expense, like, remember Google Glass? That was a thing for like a little bit, but it's not anymore. So it could be like an eye attachment glass. I remember the first, like when Google Glass was coming, I used to be a Seahawks fan. I remember Earl Thomas being on the field after they won against Denver, and he had a Google Glass on. I was like, oh, it's gonna be the future, and that never happened. That was like 8 years ago. That was 8 years ago. Oh my god! At the time of this video recording, that was 8 years ago. Holy cow! So, sorry, I'm just realize that I'm older than I really am. Time has flown. They've also, depending on the size of it, right, could be attached to the front of a shirt. So it kind of just sits on the front, like near your buttons are. I mean, just kind of always keep watching, right? And so, these are all places that can be seen. And this is what the overall intent of, this kind of body-worn camera is supposed to be, right? Is to let people know they're being watched, maybe provide a sense of ease because of that, to keep a record of everything, and to maybe calm any bad aspersions on someone's name or anything else like that, right? So it's intended to be a positive effect on record keeping, on reducing civilian complaints, or at least having complaints be substantiated because there's a video record, and limiting instances of abusive use of force or use of force in general, and to take it from there, because it's believed, right? Well, and we'll explore how and why that may be the case later on, right? But for now, we'll go ahead and pause this video.